All right, you beautiful, emotionally damaged wrecks. Let's talk about Baku, a track that promises chaos, demands sacrifice, and almost always delivers a complete and utter bloodbath. And this weekend, it did not disappoint. We had championship leaders imploding, underdogs rising from the ashes, and a level of incompetence from one team that was almost impressive. This wasn't just a race, it was a psychological operation designed to test the sanity of every single F1 fan. So today, we're doing a full-blown autopsy. We're naming names. We're figuring out who left the land of fire looking like a hero and who left looking like they'd just been personally victimized by a street circuit. This is winners and losers from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And trust me, we have to start with the biggest loser of them all. First up, we have McLaren and their civil war of incompetence. Let's be real. McLaren arrived in Baku looking like they were ready to defend their crown, and they left looking like they couldn't organize a piss-up in a brewery. This was, without a doubt, one of their most uncompetitive, embarrassing, and downright pathetic weekends of the entire season. The chaos started on lap 1, when their championship leader, Oscar Piastri, found the wall. A disaster that gave him his first DNF all season and 0 points. And I won't lie, this broke my heart real bad. But here's the thing about championship-winning teams. When one driver goes down, the other side of the garage is supposed to step up and salvage the day. And when your main rival for the title bins it on lap 1, that is a golden engraved invitation to make him pay. The door was wide open for Golden Boy Lando Norris to have a massive points day, to slash that 31-point lead, and to reassert his authority in the team. So, what did he and McLaren do with this golden opportunity? They completely and utterly bottled it. It's almost poetic. Lando had a sluggish start, got stuck in the midfield, and when he finally had a chance to make progress, the pit crew decided to take a nap, giving him a horrible 4.1-second pit stop. He spent the rest of the race stuck in a DRS train, looking completely toothless, and limped home to a miserable P7. He took just 6 points out of Piastri's lead. 6! On a weekend where he could have taken 25. This wasn't just a loss for Piastri or a loss for Norris. This was a total system failure. On a weekend where they could have put one hand on the Constructors' Trophy, they showed the world exactly why they might not deserve to be champions. It was a masterclass in fumbling the bag. An absolute disaster. But if you think that's rock bottom, trust me, we can go lower. Let's talk about Alpine. All right, so McLaren completely fumbled the bag, but at least they scored some points. If you want to see a team that treated the entire Baku weekend like a personal challenge to find rock bottom, we have to talk about Alpine. My God, I have no words. This wasn't just a bad weekend, it was a real cry for help. A full-blown French vanilla dumpster fire. It's like every single time they stepped into the car, they found a new and more creative way to be terrible. Let's just run through the chart sheet. They look kinda okay in practice, which, as we've learned, is always the first mistake when you're an Alpine fan. Hope is a trap. Then came qualifying. And what happened? You're not gonna believe this. Both cars, both of them, crashed at the same time in 2 completely separate incidents. I'm not even kidding. You can't write this stuff. It was a symphony of self-destruction, so perfectly timed you'd think it was choreographed. And this all comes right after the news that Gasly has renewed his contract and Colapinto is basically locked in. I mean, what a great start to the new era. I'm sure they were thrilled. And the race? It was a ghost town. They were so far off the pace, they were practically in a different postcode. With this result, Alpine is now sitting comfortably dead last in the constructors' standings, with a measly 20 points. 20! They're getting beaten by teams that are basically running on a budget of hopes and dreams. Honestly, what is there left to say? Alpine isn't just cooked, they're burnt to a crisp. A truly pathetic showing from a team that's supposed to be a French powerhouse. Tragic. And speaking of tragedies, we have to talk about the championship leader himself, Oscar Piastri, the guy who has looked bulletproof all damn year, the surgeon who never makes a mistake. Well, this weekend in Baku, he finally hit the skids. And man, he hit them hard. This wasn't just a blip, I'm telling you. This was a full-blown meltdown. After an uncharacteristic crash in qualifying that had his mechanics working overtime just to piece his car together, he starts the race in 9th. And what does he do? He jumps the start, the car goes into anti-stall, and then he crashes at turn 5 on the very first lap. I'm seriously not even kidding. I remember watching that just completely stunned. His incredible 34 race finishing streak, gone. A golden opportunity to assert his dominance thrown directly into the wall. It was a self-inflicted, unforced error of massive proportions. And look, blips happen, but this is the kind of mistake that can define a championship fight. When you're in a tense battle with your own teammate, you cannot afford to have a weekend where you score 0 points while he has a clear run. He gave Lando a golden opportunity on a silver platter, which, as we saw, Lando immediately tripped over and dropped. But Oscar can't rely on his rival to be just as incompetent. This was a tough pill to swallow, and a weekend that proved that even the calmest assassin can sometimes find a way to shoot himself in the foot, proving that even the most bulletproof driver can still find a way to trip over his own shoelaces.
All right, now let's talk about Haas. Because while other teams were having a bad day, Haas decided to have a full-blown existential crisis. After a pretty promising Friday where Ali Behrman looked surprisingly quick, their weekend just completely fell off a cliff. It started in qualifying. Behrman, after showing great form, makes an error and sticks it in the wall. And his teammate, Esteban Ocon, had it even worse, getting disqualified from P18 for a rear wing infringement and getting sent to the back of the grid. It was a classic Haas 1-2 punch of driver error and technical blunders. The race was a black hole of excitement. Neither car could make any progress, leaving them with a second race in a row without a single point, while their direct rivals, Williams and Racing Bulls, were busy racking them up. But this isn't just a story about a bad weekend for a team. We need to zoom in on Esteban Ocon, because I'm starting to get worried for the guy. I'm not saying he's fallen off, but lately, he's been careless. For most of the season, he looked comfortable in that Haas, easily handling his rookie teammate. But these last few weekends, it's been a different story. He's starting to get pushed around by Ali and is now typically finishing behind him in most sessions, even when Ali himself messes up. And this weekend was no different. He's making more mistakes, he's slower, and he's losing the intra-team battle. And remember, Ali has been racking up 10-place grid penalties for simply breathing in the wrong direction. So what does it say when you're still struggling to beat him? I'm sure this is just a patch of poor form and he'll bounce back, but for now, it was another weekend to forget for a driver who was starting to look a little lost. It's a tough look for a veteran when the rookie is carrying the team, even when that rookie is starting from a different postcode. And finally, to round out our losers circle, we have to give a quick mention to Alex Albon. Honestly, there's not a lot to say here because his weekend was just bad. Simple as that. After a fantastic season where he has consistently been the star of the midfield, this was a rare off weekend where nothing seemed to click. He was slow in practice, he messed up qualifying by clipping the wall and getting knocked out in Q1, and the race was certainly no better. His only notable moment was a clumsy, erroneous move on Franco Colapinto that tipped the Alpine into a spin and earned him a completely deserved 10-second time penalty. It was a weekend to forget for a driver who has been brilliant for most of the year. And trust me, it's only going to look worse in a minute when we talk about what his teammate managed to do in the exact same car. A real shocker for Alex. All right, so that was the loser's circle. A complete catalog of chaos, incompetence, and shattered dreams. A brutal weekend for so many. And honestly, just talking about all this failure is making me depressed. You know what would make me less depressed? A new microphone. So if you're enjoying this, subscribe so I can afford to buy a Blue Yeti. Thanks, mate. Anyway, as we all know, in F1, for every story of heartbreak, there is a story of triumph. For every driver who leaves a track broken, there's another who leaves a hero. So now let's flip the script. Let's talk about the winners. And my God, we have to start with the MVP of the entire weekend. While one side of the Williams garage was having a nightmare, the other was living the dream. Carlos Sainz. What is there left to say about this man? All season long, he's been, for lack of a better term, ass. It's been a tough year full of unreliability, misfortune, and his own errors. But this weekend in Baku, he looked like the driver Williams signed. Honestly, this wasn't just a good drive. It was a redemption arc in real time. He was on it from the moment he hit the track, and he dragged that Williams to a superb front row qualifying spot in P2. I'm seriously not joking. This was only his second Q3 appearance in the last 10 races, and he stuck it on the front row. This was Williams' first front row since George Russell in that chaotic Belgium race, and the first time Sainz has ever outqualified a teammate in Azerbaijan. And his race on Sunday, it was vintage Sainz. He was a smooth operator, managing his tires and his pace perfectly, holding off a charging Kimi Antonelli to take a Williams podium in a full-length race since Lance Stroll at this very same track back in 2017. He came into this weekend with just 16 points to his name. He leaves with 15 more, nearly doubling his entire season's tally and vaulting himself 6 places up the championship. This was a massive, massive result for both him and the team. After a season of getting kicked where he was down, Carlos Sainz was without a doubt the hero of Baku. Just a shame he missed out on pole position, but look on the bright side. Now he's not going to have a kid in 9 months.
All right, people, we're going from the feel-good story to the feel-inevitable story. Max Verstappen. While half the grid was busy trying not to crash into each other or themselves, Max was in a different postcode conducting a masterclass in calm, brutal dominance. Honestly, it's like he's playing a different sport sometimes. This is what a champion does. They see their rivals implode, and they don't just win, they crush them. And that's exactly what he did. Red Bull did not have the fastest car this weekend, but it didn't matter. Max still found a way to stick it on pole for the 6th time this season, more than any other driver, and his first ever pole in Baku. From the moment he held the lead from Sainz into turn 1, the race was over. He just settled in and controlled the pace with a level of authority that's frankly terrifying. And let's look at the championship. Before this race, he was 94 points behind Piastri, a gap so huge everyone had written him off. He leaves Baku just 69 points behind. Yeah, that's still a massive mountain to climb, but after 2 wins on the bounce at Monza and now here, the momentum is shifting. He's reminding everyone on the grid that even in a chaotic season, even when he's not at his most dominant, he is still the final boss. On a weekend where everyone else was slipping and sliding, Max didn't put a wheel wrong. A flawless championship-level performance. But while Max was playing on easy mode, another team was having a quietly brilliant and shockingly drama-free weekend. Let's talk about Mercedes. Next, let's talk about a team that for once I almost forgot was even in the race. And I mean that as a compliment. Mercedes. While other teams were setting themselves on fire, the Silver Arrows had a quietly brilliant and shockingly drama-free weekend. And you have to give a massive shout out to George Russell. Considering this man was apparently suffering from the bubonic plague and was excused from media duties just to rest, putting it P2 on Sunday was a remarkable effort. He gave himself a shot with P5 on the grid, and with supreme pace and a great strategy, he managed to overcut Sainz for 2nd place. It was his 7th podium of the season, and a reminder that when the car is working, he can be absolutely world-class. And what about the rookie Kimi Antonelli? After getting a bit of a reality check in Italy, he responded exactly how Mercedes would have hoped. He put in an assured, confident performance all weekend, out-qualifying his much more experienced teammate and bringing a car home in P4 for his biggest haul of points since Canada. No mistakes, no drama, just a clean, impressive drive. And what was the result of all this quiet competence? Well, Mercedes delivered their best finish in Azerbaijan since 2019, and in the process, they've jumped Ferrari to move up to P2 in the Constructors' Championship. A fantastic, under-the-radar weekend for them. Good job, Merc. Now, let's see if you can keep it up in Singapore. Something tells me I should probably pre-write the losers section for you guys just in case. Let's keep the feel-good stories coming. And man, we have to talk about Liam Lawson and the team that used to be called Alpha Tauri or Toro Rosso or whatever the hell they're calling themselves this week, Racing Bulls. This was without a doubt Liam Lawson's best ever weekend in F1. And it came at the perfect time. With all the rumors swirling around that Red Bull is getting impatient with him, this was a high-pressure weekend, and he absolutely delivered. He put in a stunning qualifying lap to stick his car in P3, the best grid slot of his entire career. And then on race day, he didn't crumble. He produced a calm, composed drive to bring it home for a career-best P5, ending a run of 2 races without a single point. I mean, just think about the rumors. Liam is apparently supposed to be bad enough to be sacked. Well, after a drive like that, the people saying that are the ones who look like dummies. This was a massive result, not just for him, but for the whole team. The healthy haul of points also helped Racing Bulls push up into 6th in the Constructors' Championship, leapfrogging Aston Martin in the process. After a rough race in Monza, this was exactly what they needed. A fast, clean, and brilliantly executed weekend. Solid stuff. And finally, let's round out our winner's circle with a driver who desperately needed a good weekend. Yuki Tsunoda.
The pressure on Yuki's shoulders has been getting heavier and heavier these past few weeks. His future at Red Bull is uncertain, especially with the other Red Bull driver, Isaac Hajar, showing strong performances. The rumor mill has been churning, and Yuki needed to deliver. And in Baku, he finally got a clean weekend together. On Saturday, he secured his first top 6 grid slot of the season. And then on Sunday, he proved he could convert it. He drove a solid, mistake-free race to secure a P6 finish, the first top 8 finish for the second Red Bull driver since all the way back in Austin last year. This was Yuki's best finish of the season. And more importantly, it was a statement, a much-needed reminder to the Red Bull management that he has the pace and the composure to get the job done. It gives him something to build on heading into Singapore, and for a driver who's been fighting for his F1 life, that's a massive win. So, there you have it. A complete autopsy of the Baku bloodbath, a weekend of chaos, incompetence, and redemption. The championship leaders at McLaren completely fumbled the bag, leaving the door wide open for a resurgent Max Verstappen. Underdogs like Carlos Sainz and Liam Lawson proved that even in a brutal season, you can still have a fairy tale weekend. And teams like Alpine and Haas, well, they reminded us that rock bottom sometimes has a basement. It was a race that shook up the championship, created heroes, and left a few careers hanging by a thread. But that's Baku for you. It always delivers the drama. All right, if you watch this whole thing, you're a true F1 addict, and you should probably be subscribed. So if you're not, go on, hit that button. Feed the addiction. Now, for the real question. And I want to see your answers in the comments. Who was your biggest winner and your biggest loser from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix? Let me know what you think. And if you're ready to go even deeper down the F1 rabbit hole, the content gods have already chosen your next video. It's on the screen right now. Go on, click it. You don't want to anger them.